Hi! Welcome to this part of my review featuring Nightcrawlers, a splatterpunk role-playing game. If you haven't seen the other parts of my review, featuring this rules-light horror game, please check out the playlist in the description below. This time we are going to talk about equipment and gameplay. Let's start with equipment. When it comes to encumbrance, a character can carry a number of items equal to their muscle attribute with no issues. Carrying over this amount means they are encumbered, and all physical tests are rolled with disadvantage. A lot of you are already familiar with advantage and disadvantage. It's basically rolling two 20-sided dice and counting the better result in the case of an advantage or the worse result in the case of a disadvantage. Your movement distance is also reduced. Characters can't carry more than double their muscle. When it comes to armor, it provides protection by reducing all incoming damage. Each type of armor reduces every hit by the armor's points value. If a character wears armor they do not have the minimum muscle for, they must suffer disadvantage on any rolls to attack or avoid damage. After a fight where armor has been used to reduce damage, the armor's usage die, and we'll talk about usage die in a few moments, should be rolled. On a 1 or 2, the armor points decrease by 1. If the armor points reach 0, the armor is destroyed. Armor can be repaired though. You roll its current usage die, and multiplying this result by 10 will give you the price that you need to pay to restore this armor. When using weapons listed as military, combat tests have disadvantage as well. This obviously represents the needed training to use those weapons. Let's talk about vehicles. Vehicles have hit points and armor points. Unlike Kindred, these do not recover with rest or not being used. Only a trained professional can fully repair a vehicle. Driving a vehicle consumes a character's full action. Attempts to make tricky maneuvers will require a nerve check. When shooting a gun out of a moving vehicle, a character suffers disadvantage to the roll. If an enemy is shooting at a character from a moving vehicle, the player character has advantage to their defense roll. If a vehicle reaches 0 hit points, you roll a 6-sided die to determine if the vehicle can be repaired or if it has been destroyed. When it comes to magical items, magic weapons typically add a bonus to any stat tested while using the weapon, and another bonus to damage die. Magic armor provides more armor points, or a higher usage die than the armor normally gives. They operate per the normal armor points rules. Artifacts and alchemical items can have unique effects, or can mimic powers. Expendable items will have a usage die, but others may offer passive bonuses or abilities. You have a list of weapons and armor and gear, such as two-handed melee weapons, pistols, shotguns, grenades, leather jackets, Kevlar vests, specialty gear, the cost of different lifestyles, such as a monthly middle cost or a monthly luxury cost, the price to stay at a motel, get laid, obtain a decent meal. You have information on helicopters, motorcycles, scooters, sports cars. Now let's talk about gameplay. Everything a character might possibly attempt that could result in failure is resolved by testing stats. In order to successfully test a stat, a player must roll below it on a d20. Enemies don't make tests. A character must avoid their attacks by making a test. The only time an enemy would roll is for damage. So you are always going to try to roll under a certain attribute. This is the core mechanic. And I already explained how to employ advantage and disadvantage. When it comes to saving throws, a saving throw is a stat test that is rolled to avoid any ability, trap, situation, or effect that would impact a character. You have a table that provides some guidelines on which attribute to use, depending on the check or test or saving throw. When it comes to the usage die, Any ability, item, or resource that has a usage die has a limited number of uses before it runs out. When that resource is used, you roll its usage die the next minute, that is the next turn. If the roll is 1 or 2, then the usage die is downgraded to the next lower die in a chain. So let's say that you roll a d20 normally, that's your usage die. If you roll a 1 or 2 on that d20, the next time you will have to roll a d12. And if you roll a 1 or a 2 on that d12, then you will be rolling a d10 next time, and so forth until you reach d4, and then the item or the ammo or any sort of resource that you are using that depends on that usage die is going to count as expended. You will no longer be able to use that expendable resource. Now, concerning humanity, Nightcrawlers don't slip into being monsters like in other games. They are already monsters. Still, that bit of remaining humanity can save them. When a character does something particularly human, meaning an action that is self-sacrificing, noble, or heroic, the city planner or game master may grant the character a point of humanity. The player can trade humanity points at any time to perhaps re-roll any one die roll, act first in combat, or perhaps to avoid death or cheat death. Once a point of humanity is spent, it is gone. Mortals get a free humanity point every time they gain a level. Otherwise, humanity must be gained through gameplay. Let's talk about time and turns. There are two important types of tracked time. You have moments, which are rounds, and minutes, which are turns. Moments are used during combat and fast-paced scenes of danger, and minutes are used when exploring, traveling, and investigating. A city planner may advance the clock as they need, substituting minutes for hours, days, or even months, should the gig require it. When it comes to movement and distance, rather than track precise numbers, Nightcrawlers uses 4 abstract ranges for measuring distances. These are close, nearby, far away, and distant. On their turn, every character can move somewhere nearby as part of an action, performing that action at any stage of the move. They can forego their action and move somewhere far away instead. Anything beyond far away can be classified as distant and would take 3 moves to get to. So for example, one moment or one round, you could move to a faraway place without carrying out any other action, and in the next turn, you will be able to use your move to reach that distant place. Concerning experience, every time a character achieves one of their goals they choose at character creation, they gain a level. Characters have a maximum level of 10. Completed goals should be replaced with another goal, and it can be either internal or external as long as the city planner approves. They do not need to replace it immediately and can wait until a later time. When you level up, your maximum hit points increase by rolling your kindred's hit die. You also roll a d20 for each stat. If the result is higher, that stat increases by 1. Optionally, you can instead increase a single stat by 1 without rolling. Stats can't go higher than 20. You also gain any new benefits associated with your brood. New edges should make sense for a player character's concept or brood, but the city planner may allow players to take any edge or develop wholly unique ones. And this concludes this part of the review. In the next part, we are going to talk about combat and hazards. It is easy to appreciate the streamlined gameplay of this game. Obviously, it is based on the Black Hack, so it focuses on solving situations quite fast, making things that otherwise would be somewhat cumbersome to track. They turn those granular mechanics into more abstract elements through the usage die, and the quick test or conflict resolution mechanic also speeds up gameplay. This is a very simple system. Some could consider it a beer and pretzels RPG. And when it comes to the list of weapons, armor, vehicles, the list is more focused on broad categories. They are not going to cover every vehicle and weapon imaginable, but they give you some guidelines, some general categories to introduce any sort of weapon or vehicle as needed by the adventure or the campaign that you are running. The only thing that is not abstracted is money, but that's pretty easy to handle in my opinion. Thank you for watching this part of the review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that have been supporting the channel by sending right through RPG gift certificates. If anyone else wants to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.